My name is Oliva D. Castillo, and I'm 33 years old. After 7 months of funding what we kept calling our dream property, I got a text from my sister while I was standing in my kitchen, coffee cooling on the counter, phone buzzing once and stopping. "We're moving forward without you. This is family only." I read it 3 times, waiting for my brain to supply context that wasn't there, something that would make it not feel like a blade sliding cleanly between my ribs. It never came. Just that one sentence from Tyler, my own sister, someone I had spent years propping up, someone who, without me, would have been flat on her face more times than I could count. The betrayal wasn't subtle. It wasn't even dressed up as misunderstanding. It was a clean break. After 7 months of pouring money, time, and energy into the retreat property, she decided I was no longer part of the dream. And that line, family only, hit harder than anything else. It felt like being thrown out of your own house while someone else stood in the doorway, telling you membership had rules you somehow didn't qualify for anymore. What made it worse was that I could still hear Tyler's voice in my head from the beginning, pitching the idea to me like it was sacred. A retreat center upstate, rustic cabins, creative workshops, guided hikes, a place for healing, she'd said. A legacy, our legacy. Now suddenly she was moving forward without me, as if I'd just been some temporary investor who overstayed her usefulness. I didn't respond. I didn't call. I just stood there for a few minutes, phone in my hand, heart steady in a way that surprised me. Then I picked up the phone again, not to call Tyler, but my lawyer. Within 2 hours, I had a notarized withdrawal from the property deal. By midnight, I'd requested a freeze on the joint business line we'd been using to fund operations. That line existed because of my credit, my money. I had started the LLC back when Tyler couldn't even keep a checking account from overdrafting. She didn't see it coming. The next morning, when she tried to use the card for a bulk materials order, it was declined. And suddenly, the sister who didn't have time to call me before cutting me out of the project was blowing up my phone. Voicemail after voicemail, text stacking up. I didn't answer any of them. I just watched the notifications pile up like evidence. By noon, the panic escalated into emails from a lawyer named Brent, full of vague threats and dramatic demands to restore access. Tyler must have fed him a carefully edited version of the truth, because he seemed to think I was some jealous partner acting out. I didn't reply. Let them burn money on posturing. Then my mother texted. She started with guilt, slid into nostalgia, and ended with tears. "This isn't like you," she wrote. "You're tearing this family apart." I didn't feel angry reading it. I felt clear. I replied, "No, Mom. I'm just finally walking away from the fire." She never answered that. It had always been the same pattern. Tyler would screw something up, and I'd clean it up. Then somehow I'd be the problem. When she dropped out of college and tried flipping used electronics, I paid off $42,000 of her debt. She never thanked me. She just said I was the only one who believed in her, then asked for more. When she couldn't get approved for a mortgage, I co-signed. That house she bragged about online, with the fire pit and detached garage, only existed because I fronted the money and told her not to ruin it. She thought she could cut me out and I'd roll over, that I'd swallow the betrayal to keep the peace. What she never understood was that peace isn't built on keeping toxic people comfortable. It's built on leaving the chaos they create. And freezing the account was only step 1. Tyler didn't take the silence well. At first, she seemed to think I was just cooling off, that I'd eventually call, that this was one of those family blow-ups where everyone pretends nothing permanent happened. What she didn't understand, what she never understood, was that silence from me wasn't hesitation, it was calculation. By the second day, the voicemails stopped sounding concerned and started sounding panicked. Her voice shifted from forced calm to sharp edges. She accused me of blowing everything up for no reason, warned me I was going to lose everything too if I kept going. I saved every message, every word. I wanted a clean record of how fast entitlement turns into threat. Then came the emails. First, all business. Requests to reinstate the joint account to prevent delays. Reminders of timelines and commitments. When that didn't work, the tone softened into guilt. She wrote that I was leaving them hanging, that this wasn't just about me. When that still didn't get a response, the manipulation crept in. She told Mom I was devastated and needed support, tried to redirect the pressure back toward me. I didn't call Mom. I called the supplier. I told them I was no longer attached to the business, that Tyler was acting without authorization, and that they should be cautious about extending any further credit. They weren't surprised. She had already missed one payment and was asking for extensions. I removed my personal guarantee. That door slammed shut. The next morning, Tyler tried to place another large materials order. Her card declined again. That's when I got the message, just one line in all caps. "What did you do?" I didn't respond. I was busy taking back everything that had my name on it. The domain for the business belonged to me, the hosting account too. The SEO contract, the photography rights, even the booking software we'd integrated into the retreat website, all ran through accounts I created and paid for. I waited until she started promoting the summer opening before I pulled it offline. No warning, no announcement. The website went dark, replaced with a blank page that read, "Under legal dispute." Nothing else. Calls came in from mutual acquaintances who assumed I was pulling a stunt. One told me Tyler said I abandoned the project because I couldn't handle the pressure. I let him talk. Let all of them talk. The real pressure hadn't even started yet. That night, my mother showed up at my building. I watched through the kitchen window as she stood at the intercom, buzzing, calling my phone, then finally sliding a folded note into my mailbox. I didn't read it. I didn't need to. Somehow, Tyler would be the one trying to make peace, and I'd be the one holding a grudge. That was always how the story got told. The truth was, I wasn't angry anymore. I was done cleaning up after someone who kept lighting fires and calling it ambition. I wasn't trying to destroy Tyler. I was just removing myself from the structure she built on my back. She still didn't get it. 2 days later, she tried to file for a business development grant using the old LLC credentials. Credentials that no longer existed because I'd formally deactivated the company. The application bounced. The agency flagged it for a mismatch in tax IDs and contacted the state. Within 24 hours, Tyler was locked out of her business insurance account and the merchant processor. Both required verification from registered owners. I was no longer one of them. She texted again, just one word this time. "Seriously?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The foundation was gone, and everything she built on top of it was starting to crack. By Friday, I could tell the panic had fully set in. Tyler had always been good at sounding composed, even when everything underneath her was collapsing. But the signs were there if you knew how to look. Misspelled texts, rapid-fire voicemails sent minutes apart, emails with subject lines like, "Let's talk this out," followed by, "You're taking this too far." I didn't answer any of it. I hadn't done anything reckless. I hadn't gone public. I hadn't dragged anyone online or aired our business in public spaces. All I had done was remove what I built, quietly, cleanly, legally. And now she was flailing. That afternoon, Tyler showed up at my office. I saw her through the security feed, standing in the lobby with her hands in her pockets, trying to look calm. My assistant buzzed me and said my sister was downstairs and said it was important. I told her to ask Tyler to leave. She did. Tyler waited exactly 6 minutes, pacing once, then walked out without a word. I didn't need to see her. I already knew what she wanted. That evening, an email came from a new lawyer, not Brent. This one had a polished letterhead and a longer signature, but the message was the same. They demanded I restore access to the business accounts, reverse the LLC closure, and hand over branding rights. They accused me of acting in bad faith and violating verbal agreements. My attorney replied with one sentence. Our client is under no legal or financial obligation to subsidize mismanagement and entitlement. That was it. The next day, Tyler escalated. She tried to push a zoning application through the city office for construction on the retreat land. She forged a document that made it look like I'd agreed to transfer development rights to her. What she didn't know was that the planning department still had my number listed as the primary contact. They called me directly. I asked them to forward the application, reviewed it, then submitted a formal fraud notification along with my withdrawal letter and supporting documentation. The application was flagged for investigation and shelved indefinitely. By Sunday, the whispers started. Family members I hadn't heard from in months suddenly felt compelled to check in. An aunt asked why I was being so cold. A cousin sent a message reminding me that Tyler wasn't perfect, but she was family. My inbox filled with reminders of how close we used to be and how worried Mom was. Then Amber called. She tried to sound neutral, but I could hear the concern underneath. She said Tyler wasn't in a good place, that she had too much tied up in this. She said we built something incredible together, and I shouldn't throw it away. That word again, we. There was never a we. There was me taking meetings, building projections, negotiating contracts, fronting cash. Tyler showed up for photos and posted inspirational quotes on our social media pages. That was the extent of her contribution. She never stayed up late fixing numbers that didn't add up, never risked her personal credit to keep things afloat. The retreat wasn't our legacy, it was mine. She was just attached to it for as long as it benefited her. What Tyler didn't know yet was that I'd already started something new. A better location, a cleaner plan, solo ownership. The LLC was filed. The first deposit on the land was paid. Construction teams were lined up. No announcements, no posts, just progress. While she scrambled to keep an illusion alive, I was already building something real. By the middle of the next week, Tyler stopped contacting me directly, not because she'd accepted anything, but because she finally understood I wasn't engaging. Silence on my end was making noise on hers. That's when she switched tactics. She stopped coming at me head-on and tried to circle around me instead. It started with a visit to my father. We weren't especially close. Divorced when I was young, lived a few towns over, remarried, kept his distance. Tyler figured he could win him over, spin the story about how I was tearing the family apart and destroying everything we worked for together. What she didn't know was that my father didn't owe her loyalty. He pulled me aside once years ago and said Tyler always acted like the world owed her something. So when she showed up at his door with half-truths and wounded eyes, he told her something simple. If Olivia cut you off, you probably earned it. Tyler left 15 minutes later. Then something unexpected happened. I got a message from Julia, one of our former suppliers who ran a reclaimed wood shop we used early on. She said Tyler tried to place a large order under the old company name, promising I would clear the invoice. Julia declined and warned me because Tyler seemed desperate. That's when I realized she wasn't just spiraling. She was trying to rebuild the entire project without me, without money, and still using my name like a master key. A day later, I got a call from a man named Roman. He introduced himself as a private investor. Tyler had pitched him a lakeside retreat that was supposedly nearly complete. She dropped my name several times during the pitch. Roman said the deal felt off. Tyler was pushing urgency, glossing over details. He Googled me, then called. I asked him to forward the proposal. He did. I printed it and handed it straight to my lawyer. Using my name and reputation to solicit investment crossed a line that couldn't be smoothed over. The cease and desist went out that afternoon, carefully worded, firm. Any further use of my identity or association with the business would result in immediate legal action. I knew it would land hard. Tyler couldn't run the story anymore. That night, my mother called again. This time she didn't cry. She just said Tyler was talking about selling the house, the one I helped her buy. She tried to refinance and couldn't qualify. Investors were backing out. The website was gone. The retreat had vanished. I asked my mother what she wanted me to do. She said I used to be Tyler's anchor. Now she was drifting. I didn't say that anchors only drag you down if you let them. A week later, Tyler went quiet. The dangerous kind of quiet. Then I got a message from Jason, an old contractor we'd stopped using after Tyler pushed him out. Tyler offered him a cut of a new build, claimed I was still involved. Jason thought it sounded shady and warned me. I forwarded it to my lawyer. The enforcement notice was updated. That same afternoon, Tyler went live on social media. Standing on the porch of the unfinished retreat house, talking vaguely about betrayal and people who don't want to see you succeed. She never said my name, but the comments did. She looked exhausted, rambling, holding on to an image that no longer existed. 2 days earlier, I'd quietly contacted the county and flagged the property for abandoned construction. No valid permits, no inspections. They posted a stop work order, a red sign nailed to the gate. Someone sent me a photo. That was the moment I knew she'd run out of exits. 3 nights after the stop work order went up, my mother showed up again. It was just after 9, dark outside, quiet in that way that makes everything feel heavier. She buzzed the intercom once, then again. I didn't answer. 5 minutes later, she left a voicemail. Her voice was tired, not angry, not pleading, just resigned. She said Tyler was selling the house. I already knew. A friend in real estate had messaged me that morning. The listing went up low and urgent, the kind that tells everyone exactly what's happening without saying it out loud. My mother ended the message with, "You have to at least talk to her. You're both my daughters." I listened once. Then I blocked her number. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. Every time Tyler crossed a line, my mother handed her a ladder and told her to climb. The house sold fast, undervalued, a fire sale. Tyler never posted about it directly, just a single story with the word "onward" over a photo of her belongings stacked in a storage unit. People flooded the comments with sympathy, telling her to stay strong, as if everything that happened was just bad luck. She never said my name, but I could see the pattern. She was rewriting the story again, framing herself as the one rebuilding after betrayal, not the one who burned through trust and resources until there was nothing left. I got one last email from a lawyer I'd never heard of. The tone was different, not aggressive, almost meek. Buried in the legal language was a suggestion that we return to negotiations and consider an equitable solution. There was nothing left to negotiate, no property, no business, no shared future. My lawyer didn't respond. Neither did I. That night, I scrolled through my blocked list and finished what I'd been avoiding. Tyler was already there. My mother, an aunt, 2 cousins. Sharon, who kept calling to tell me I'd made my point and should come home, wherever she thought that was. 6 names, 6 exits. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt overdue. For the first time in months, my phone was quiet. I slept better than I had in years. A few weeks later, the builder at my new property called. The second cabin was ahead of schedule. The trails were cut, the deck overlooking the water was finished. They'd installed the wood-burning stove I'd wanted from the beginning. I drove up 2 days later. The air was cold and still. The lake looked like glass. And for the first time, my name was the only one on the deed. No drama, no interference, no one siphoning energy and resources while calling it partnership. Just me standing on land I owned, on something I built without apology. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt done. Tyler was still out there somewhere. Last I heard, she was renting a 1-bedroom in a city she used to mock, trying to sell refurbished patio furniture online, talking about turning pain into purpose. A few people liked the videos. A few commented. I didn't watch them. I don't hate her. I just don't know her anymore. The retreat booked out for the season. 3 cabins, a main lodge, a small team I chose carefully. People who show up, do the work, and don't take more than they give. I didn't build it to prove anything. I built it because I finally had space to create without constantly managing someone else's damage. A month later, a letter showed up at my business address. No return address, handwritten. I recognized the writing immediately. Tyler. I didn't open it. I burned it in the fire pit behind the main lodge as the sun went down. Not out of anger, not even out of spite, but out of peace. Some bridges aren't meant to be crossed again. They're meant to be left behind. I've been no contact for 6 months now. No slip-ups, no late-night curiosity. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when you finally stop explaining yourself to people who never listened in the first place. Tyler had chances, so many of them. Every time she chose herself. That's not family. That's just someone using the word to keep a door open. The door is closed now, and it's going to stay that way. People assume that after everything ends, after the last message is blocked and the last bridge is burned, there's some kind of emotional aftershock. A moment where you regret it. A night where you wonder if you went too far. I waited for that. I expected guilt to creep in when the adrenaline wore off. It never did. What settled instead was something steadier, heavier, relief. The quiet didn't feel empty. It felt intentional. No more bracing myself every time my phone buzzed. No more decoding messages that pretended to be concern, but always bent toward control. No more family emergencies that were really just Tyler's latest mess wearing a new costume. For the first time in years, my days were mine, from beginning to end. Meetings ended without follow-up drama. Dinners stayed peaceful. Weekends didn't carry a sense of looming obligation. Every now and then, someone would try to test the boundary. A distant relative would just check in. An old family friend would ask if I'd heard from Tyler lately, their tone loaded with expectation. I learned to answer simply, no, and then I'd stop talking. Silence did more work than explanations ever had. People eventually got uncomfortable and changed the subject. That was new. Usually, I was the one expected to smooth things over, to translate, to forgive first. The retreat filled with guests who didn't know any of that history, people who showed up tired, burned out, looking for quiet. I watched them sit by the lake at dawn, wrapped in blankets, not speaking, just breathing. I saw myself in them more than I expected. Not the version of me that carried everyone else, but the version that had finally set the weight down. The work felt clean, honest, no damage control required. One evening, after the last guests checked in, I sat alone on the main lodge deck with a cup of tea and watched the light disappear over the water. I thought about Tyler, not with anger, not even sadness, but with distance, the kind that lets you see patterns clearly. She hadn't failed because she lost the retreat, or the house, or the business. She failed because she never learned how to build anything without standing on someone else's shoulders. And I failed her once too, by making that possible for so long. That realization didn't hurt the way I thought it might. It felt like closure without reconciliation, an ending without a conversation. Some stories don't wrap themselves up neatly. They just stop demanding your attention, and that's enough. I don't know if Tyler will ever understand what really happened. Maybe she still tells it as a story of betrayal. Maybe she still believes she was entitled to everything she lost. That part doesn't belong to me anymore. What belongs to me is the life I built after I stopped trying to save someone who didn't want to be accountable. The retreat lights came on one by one as night settled in, warm, steady. I went inside, closed the door, and didn't look back.